Anyway, so this is the how to be a people manager session. Before we begin, I wish to thank the sponsors, particularly Adobe, UVU, Xmission, and Bluehost for helping to make sure that this is possible. But today, yes, you can clap for them. Today we are fortunate to have with us three executives from the community who will be able to give us insights into this topic. We have Carol Fineagan, who is a CIO from Nelson Laboratories. Then we have Sue Fahnert, thank you, who is the VP of U.S. Operations for bChannel. And then we have, I said it better the first time, Zlatina Todorov, who is the VP of Technology Development at OC Tanner. So I will turn the time over to them.
Hello, can you hear me? So welcome. One of the things which I would like to start with, we will introduce ourselves and we'll tell you our stories. We all have stories, but I think there is no reason for us to go over step by step. I would like to know what you're interested in, because maybe what our stories are, we won't touch what you're interested. So I would really, and I'm sure my colleagues here will really appreciate any kind of questions. To start off, Carol, do you want to start maybe introductions?
Sure. Hi, I'm Carol Fineagan. I've been in Utah almost 8 years. I came to Utah for Energy Solutions to integrate all of their acquisitions, and I'm now at Nelson Laboratories. I came into IT, but I have 3 liberal arts degrees. So I have an associate's in paralegal and Shakespeare, a bachelor's in journalism, and a master's in publications design and management, which is graphics design and writing. So I came into IT through the graphics design as a graduate assistant, University of Baltimore, when Linotronic typesetting switched into desktop publishing, and I was the only one not afraid to learn the computer system. So I literally went all the way through Novell training and system administration training, project management training, and my first leadership role in IT, aside from bossing my sisters around my whole life as the oldest child, my first role in IT leadership was as project management to roll out 8,000 Windows, don't laugh, 3.0 desktops in the United States for an insurance brokerage that has been consumed by Aon since. So project management and the people management and technology management coming together is how I evolved into an IT leader.
Hi, I'm Sue Fahnert. I was actually born and raised here in Utah, but up in Davis County, and I'm really going to age myself right now. But my husband and I started a tiny little value-added reseller back in 1983, selling white boxes with processors of 8088, if any of you remember those, single floppies. And when we started selling 20 gig hard drives in them, that was great. But when we got to the 40s, that was like industry changing. So I'm really, really dating myself at this point. We moved in through my career through that, and then I ended up in software. So I've been in the software industry about 15 years. So right now I work for bChannels, and I'm kind of on the other side of technology at this point. We actually have a consulting company around sales and marketing. So consulting and support services. So that's what I do.
Okay, my name is Zlatina Todorov, and I'm originally from Bulgaria. We came 17 years ago to Utah to work, and I didn't speak any English, so my only common language was actually my programming skills. So I come from completely programming background. I have been a developer for a long time before coming here, and when we came, I actually was lucky. I found a job as a programmer. So during my years here, I worked for 2 companies only. I started with QC Technologies as a developer, and pretty soon I had an awesome manager who basically said, you're at the top of where you can go here. If you want to find something, go find it outside of here, because there was no opportunities to grow, no opportunities to learn. Just get out, learn. So I really appreciated that, because sometimes when you come and you get used to things, you don't think about what it takes to make the next step. And he basically said, if you're okay sitting here and working 2 hours and reading 5 hours, That's fine with me. Your salary will be the same. Or you can go do something, make a difference. So at that time, I decided I can't sit and do nothing. It's not me. So I went and found a job at Zlatina, and I have been there almost 15 years now. When I went to Zlatina, I started as a developer. I still had probably the programming language, the only thing which was kind of close to me, which I felt really comfortable with. During my first couple of years there, I was just kind of looking for opportunities, at least from my point of view, to get into the leadership job, help the teams kind of get things better. So I had maybe, I don't know, first 4 or 5 years just as developer on the team, and then slowly I had given opportunities to do some more work as a leader, just a tech lead. You kind of help the team make decisions, you kind of help the team do things slightly differently. And when in 2007 they decided that they need somebody to lead the support division, I applied for a job. At that time, everybody was saying, "Oh, you're completely non-qualified. You don't have an MBA. Your English is not perfect. Your stuff is not okay." But the reality is, I cared for the team, and team cared for me. So we all kind of got together. I got the job, and since then I have been kind of in the executive leadership positions and Zlatina, playing different roles. So that's kind of my side of the story. So if you have questions, I would like to ask you, just raise your hand, regardless if we're talking in the middle or not. We really would like to answer your questions. So just so you know how we kind of try to talk about that, we will talk a little bit about the interpersonal soft skills, which you need to learn when you move from a developer into the manager, what it means to expand your team, because your team is not just developers when you move, how to manage and how to set expectations, and how to collaborate. It's actually very different as soon as you move from the developers and go to the next step. So I would like to start with maybe the interpersonal, the soft side. So
Sure.
Sue?
So I kind of skipped over how I got into management, and your reference to mothering your sisters. I was one of 5 boys, one girl out of 5 boys. Let me be clear there. And I just took on this very mothering role, and I still get teased about that in the business, that I really am the nurturer of the business. So I think I learned some really, really crucial things right off when I got into management, and it's really stuck with me. And one thing that I'd like for everyone to remember is that at the end of the day, when you move into management, it's not about being on the defensive and always assuming the worst, that somebody comes to you and the employee has an issue, or they're calling out one of your employees. Don't assume that they've done something in malice, or that they're wrong, because what we find, and this has been proven over and over again, that I believe that 99% of the people in this world they want to be successful. They don't want to fail. And if there's something that has gone wrong, whether it's a misunderstanding or a misinterpretation, or they just didn't get it, right? And so then you have to take the step back and ask, what piece are you missing? How can I help you be successful? And really approaching it that way. We have a really great program in our business, and I feel very valued that our company is vested in so much of this really philosophy about building your assets. Your people are your assets. Yes, your outcome or your output might be software, it might be a piece of hardware, a gadget, whatever that is, but at the end of the day, without the people to develop that and to support that, we're a services business, so our people are our assets, right? They're the ones that is delivering the service. But if you don't develop them and invest in them and really nurture them, you really don't have anything. And if you do it right and you really invest in the people, and we have a really great learning program, and actually sitting down with an employee right when they start and say, what are your long-term goals? How can we put a development plan? We have a very structured, very processed development plan that every employee signs up the first day they're there, pretty much, to say, this is who I am, this is what I want to be, and this is how I want to grow in the business, and invest in them. So it really is about making them a person, right? They're not just a number, even though oftentimes you get an employee number. I used to work for a 20,000 employee company, and it was tough being, one number in that, but really making sure that every employee feels valued and that you personally are responsible for their development and them knowing that you're invested in that way.
So the soft skill I always promote, I share Sue's feelings exactly and experience, communication. So part of my elevator speech is that I'm the UN interpreter of geek speak, because the thing I've run into time and time again is the communication gap. So every job I've come into, there was no one advocating for the skills, talents, and personalities of the IT team. And on the other side of the management team, there was not a clear communication of business goals to the IT team. So it was like a Dilbert cartoon. Tell me what I should write up for you as a system requirement, and then you deliver it. So it was, business did not know how to speak to IT, and IT did not know how to promote their skills and talents properly. So really that soft skill of communicating and advocating for your team, knowing who your team is, and the ego part has to come out. So I am not the most successful person on the team. I am successful thanks to all the talent and collaboration that goes on with my team and the teams out in the community that we support. So communicating that every day is the soft skill I employ the most.
I would, of course, agree with everything what they said. For me personally, the hardest thing coming from a development background was I knew what my colleagues wanted. Come on, I worked with them the last 6 years. So I knew every single dream. But as a manager, I had to make sure that I empower them to do the things which they love to do so they can exceed. Because when you do that, the people actually feel like they have wings. The second thing, which was really hard, and I can tell you that I probably felt at the beginning, and it took some nurturing from my manager at that time, was the fact that my job is not to solve the problem anymore. My job is to enable the people who work to solve the problem. They're closer to it. They know better than I do. And that's letting things go and trusting people. It's really hard. It sounds really easy in words, but when you wrote this code, think about that. I wrote this piece of code. I have been keeping it alive for 5 years, and it suddenly comes somebody who just got 6 months ago in the company, and I kind of know the code, and you're like, if I go and I fix it, it will take me 5 minutes. What's he doing for 3 days? Have you been in that mode? Come on. But that's the reality of it. So as a manager, I never realized that this is what I need to do. I need to step back, look, and listen. It's like giving them the wings, and my job is to remove obstacle. My job is not to solve the problem, which is very different from I imagine actually a manager should do. I kind of thought it should be a Superman, but it's obviously not. So that's kind of my take on the soft skills, because that's more on me than on the team. But the reality is, if you don't recognize it, it will be hard.
Oh, just one quick question, because what we found is that our developers come in and are awesome, they're great. Those soft skills are really, really important. And there might become a time where we have developers, like a senior developer, who suddenly becomes a tech lead because we had someone leave, they're there, but they have to have a chance to develop the soft skills. So what are some ways that we can help at the junior and the mid-level? So that way, when it comes time to become a tech lead and manager, that we can kind of be able to cultivate those skills already instead of kind of like throwing the fire and good luck and hopefully it works out.
So we are very fortunate in Utah to have a couple of really excellent training programs. The one I know the best is through Association of Information Managers. It's called Leadership Development Institute. It is just a few $100s, and I have sent highly technical people who are moving into managing people through this, and they teach things like the anatomy of peace and crucial conversations. These types of books that help people think about their impact on the team they're going to be managing, and how what they say is going to influence the behavior of others. And it's, I'm not just trying to sell the AIM program, but it takes people out of their day job for 4 Fridays a month, each month, and puts them in with peers, and they have homework assignments and reading assignments. So I would say any program that takes that person out of their day-to-day job and gets them in amongst peers. Salt Lake Community College has some of these same soft skill classes, I'm sure UVU for professional development. But anything that takes them out of the technical arena and puts them in with peers and has them evaluate themselves and the impact of themselves on the other team members, it's valuable.
Yeah, I echo that. I mean, especially like the Crucial Conversations. I mean, that's a book they could buy online. I don't know if anybody's been through that class, but that really changed my management style. 100%. It was 100% turnaround. Love the book. Love the class. They actually just had one recently. The other one is Getting Things Done. There's some really great resources out there. But I will tell you that, you know, because I've seen this happen again and again. And oftentimes what happens is just because they're the most senior and they know the most about the project, they're just next in line, right? But it's back to that sitting down with them in the beginning and saying, is management really an area you'd like to grow into? Because the worst thing you can do is force someone into a leadership or a management role, and that it goes against everything in their nature. Now, it might be something they want to grow into and they have a stomach for it. But if you put someone in there who will just never be set up for success, it becomes quite a cancer to the organization. So don't be afraid to try things. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying also be aware that not everybody is cut out for that. And, you know, sometimes those are tough mistakes to learn, but they are a learning. But also know that you need their buy-in, right? And it's really about you encouraging them that, you know, we think you'd be great at this because of why. And encourage them and offer the assistance to get them trained so they have the skills and they're equipped to be successful. The last thing you want to do is drop them in the deep end. It really is quite catastrophic. I've seen it.
So from my experience, the most useful thing was a clear feedback. Tell me what I'm not doing right. Because the problem is, I feel like in 90% of the cases, I don't even realize I'm doing it. I don't know I told you what to do versus asking you what to do. But if nobody helps you grow into the role, you can't figure it out. Because this is how you function. And I think this is probably the trap for the most managers who step into this role, is they don't understand sometimes where is the line between do it and, oh, I have an idea. Do you think it's a good idea? I mean, you probably said the same thing in both cases at the end of the sentence. But one sentence is, I know everything, so I'll just go through and pile through it. The other is, maybe I'll give you opportunity to walk out of it if you don't want to. But that, in my experience, has been the most helpful is you can go through the classes. And some people, like I went through the same class early through the Association of the Information Management. And the books were really, really useful for me, but they become live when somebody said, hey, in this meeting, what you did, you should probably have done it slightly differently. And that's a way of saying it. So that for me has been making the biggest difference. Because everybody, to that point, is we all want to succeed. For truth.
Once we get somebody hired, we all care about them and we want to try really, really hard and we throw a lot of effort into making them better. But sometimes I'm having problems with when I hire people, everyone puts on such a pretty face and they're so afraid to tell you anything that's wrong. And we come across these huge surprises that we're a customer service company also, and it's murder when you find out these people have DUIs or all these things that, or maybe they're not something you can find by just doing a regular search, but personality problems or, but then on the other side, we're told, I like to push them really, really hard. I like to test them, make them do really, really hard things in interviews, make them very uncomfortable. But then we're also told that's unfair. You shouldn't treat people that way, treat them kindly. But the balance is, once I've invested in someone as an employee, I need to know that they're going to be great.
Yeah, so There's a lot of things you can do in interviewing, in the interviewing process, right? There's some really great online assessments that you can offer and have them take, and we don't hire anyone without going through that, because that will oftentimes kind of show some of those red flags, right?
Like a personality.
Yeah, like almost like a personality, test, disc,
Profiles.
Okay.
Most of those, though, you can tell what you should answer in a lot of those. And I mean, sometimes they're very valuable, but other times.
We've actually found a really good one that has seemed to we've had really great success, and I can get with you afterwards. It's actually a UK based one because our headquarters is based in the UK, so it's better than any ones I've ever used. So we really have been able to notice that. I think, and this sounds once again so simple, to just set that expectation right at the beginning, right? That we're going to have very frank and honest conversation right from the beginning, because we are a customer service company, right, as you say. So we have to ensure that you're in a comfortable space to give us feedback, but we also are in a comfortable space to give you that valid feedback. But oftentimes employers don't do that right off the bat because, once again, it's so formal, right? But it really is the process of setting that right up front, because the only way you're going to be able to see and develop these people is give them an honest space, and to where they're not going to get beaten and flogged, right? That it's all about feedback and developing you, and then hopefully you can get over some of those hurdles. I mean, background checks, I'm sure you're already doing those things. I mean, that's all stuff that's hard to do, but like I say, there's some things you just don't see until they're there. So then it's all about feedback.
You have to beat them and flog them in the interview enough to get them to break down that wall that they've got because they want to get hired. You have to get to who they really are.
So maybe I can share some of our experience. We actually have a new rule. We only hire people after we basically torture them through a day of our life. So as we call it. I mean, it's not really torture. I mean, we ask them to come and do an interview. We ask them to do some paired programming with us. We do some board stuff. And then the group which didn't interview them takes them for lunch, takes them outside, and they go and talk about families, hobbies, anything else. And you know how many times we said, oh, their technical skills are so good. But during the lunch, he said, he walks in the house and locks all cell phones. Do I really want somebody like that? Because he's afraid his kids will use cell phones in the house. It at least raises the red flag to the point when I'm like, you start looking at the symptoms after that. Because if it's a whole day, yes, it's a torture probably for the interviewer and the people who have to apply. But on the other side, when we get the people, we have seen them in the interview process. We have seen them outside of the company with a different group, how they behave during lunch. And we talk absolutely no work. So the rule about going to lunch is you're not allowed to talk work. You're not allowed to talk experience. It's just an interview of can it fit. And it has been working really well. I mean, I'm sure that we will miss here and there something, but I think it's, if people who have to work with the person spend a lunch with him and they'd like to do it again, they probably can fit together. If people who have to work together and say, oh, I don't want to go and do another break with him. I mean, I don't need the reasons. I trust my team that if they can work with him, they probably can't.
I wanted to address that. We do one up and one down interviews. So the people who will be doing, so say it's a systems engineer or it's an applications development person, we have the help desk, a couple of people on the help desk interview. Then we have a supervisor interview, and our HR group interviews and does that. And we don't do it all on the same day. So by making the person go through 3 interviews, a lot of people can get through the first one and manage their expectations and your expectations. But when you start getting different levels of the organization in, when it's a senior position, for instance, when I interviewed at Nelson Laboratories, I met with the entire senior leadership team. So I met with people individually, and I met with people at a breakfast meeting, and I met with other people in the organization to understand what I was jumping into, and also for them to understand more about me and my communication style and skills. So I would say a cross-functional interview process is going to help you out a lot. So then you're not in the grilling position either. You know, it's like the poodle groomer. You don't want to be the poodle groomer. You want to be the friend of the poodle. I use dog analogies a lot because I'm a dog person. Have no poodles. But you want to get as many people to give you input and feedback as possible. And calling references doesn't work anymore because references aren't allowed to say anything that would besmirch someone or get themselves in a legal situation. I use LinkedIn a lot to see who's in their network. Do I know people in their network? Is that a comfortable network for me, or is it, is it a network I need to learn and see where they fit in? So I do a lot of social media background check on people, check their Facebook page, Twitter, LinkedIn, and it's not spying on people. It's who they represent themselves as out in social media, and usually that representation reflects back into who they're going to be at work.
So I just wanted to add a comment that I'm in a much smaller company, but the way we do interviews is we have both management and their peers. And if you want to get past what you're talking about, people want to be polite, they want to be positive about the people they interview, it's very important to construct the questions you answer the people who interview. It's very important to construct the questions that you're asking the people who interview. For instance, one of the questions we ask after we all interview them is, would you come in to work with them on a Sunday? That's not a question that assaults the other person. They're not feeling like they're dissing this other person. They're saying, no, this is not really someone I want to work with, without the abrasiveness of asking them, do you want to work with them?
Yeah, that's really a good point.
So how do you deal with kind of complacent, low to no motivated individuals who they show up, they do an adequate job, not bad enough to fire, but not good enough to really draw positive attention? How do you work with those individuals? Either, and it may sound bad, either to motivate them up to promotion or move them on, or to get rid of them?
So I'll start. Maybe it's easier for me because so one of the things which I do is I feel like usually these people are in the wrong role, or they're doing something which they're not passionate about. I haven't seen a passionate person do a mediocre job. All the people who are passionate, they want to succeed. So I feel it like more a failure on my side, that I didn't figure out what they really want. And maybe they're wrong, they're completely wrong for the position which they're put in. Or maybe the role is wrong for them. I mean, I firmly believe that there is no bad people, it's just there is a bad roles or bad positions which we put them in. Because from the point of view of me working with a lot of people in our organization, I work with both contractors, developers, long-term new people. One of the things which I observed is people usually become disconnected when they believe that there is no hope. As soon as they lose hope, they don't care. They can get the minimum which is needed to get the salary, and it's your job as a manager or somebody else to figure out why they lost the hope. Is they lost the hope because their manager is not paying attention in their dreams, or their job migrated away from where it should be? So I would basically throw it back the question. In my mind, it's not employee's fault. It's the people who are supposed to make sure that he's doing a good job, who probably missed some clues in the process.
And I echo all of that as well, but don't be afraid to move them around, right? Once again, if it's not a good fit, job role, we do a lot of language support. And as we find, different cultures have different expectations. And we, just as an example, we had this really great gentleman doing a great job. I shouldn't say great job. Let me put this back. A very mediocre job, right? He was doing just enough to get by for us. But when we did client reviews, clients raved about him. He was doing such a great job for them. And come to find out, it was actually he was reporting into a woman. And he just didn't have any respect for this, for women. So we actually tried a couple of different women and managers. We got the same outcome. So we moved him under a male, and it's been like night and day, and it all really boiled down to culture for him. So, you have to, once again, it's very dynamic. You have to be able to look at that and, once again, just not put everything in a black and white box and assume, that, it's a bad apple. He's either on the wrong role or wrong team, or it could be a manager, because sometimes personalities just don't mix either. And you don't want to lose a good asset, right, because of that. So don't be afraid.
And I'm going to represent the black and white East Coast perspective because that's who I am. Sometimes you can do all of those things and the person still does not rise to the occasion. So one thing you have to be very clear about is expectations. What is their job role? Make sure they understand what they're supposed to be doing and you understand. It could be that the job has outgrown them, or they have taken a divergent path in their wish for education and training. Sometimes you have to help that person exit the company. That's a rare exception in my case. I really try to work, as Zlatina and Sue said, with everyone and figure out what it is they really want to do. If what they really want to do doesn't exist inside the company, I work very hard to help them find the right job. Now, that might sound a little counterintuitive coming from a CIO of Nelson Laboratories, but I have done this throughout my entire career. If I am not the best leader for them and this company is not the best fit, let's be honest about it. Some people will be honest with you and some people won't. If people won't be honest with me, I'm brutally honest with them. I will say, here are the expectations, here's a 30-day plan, here's a 60-day plan. You haven't met the expectations. What can we do to help you, or what is it that you want to be doing? So I have those very candid conversations with people, and we have people exit the company. I don't ever throw anyone off a cliff. They know that ahead of time. And I also encourage my team once a year to decide, is this the job you want to be in? Are you doing what you love? And what makes you thrilled to come to work every day? And if you're not, talk to me. If there's anything I can do to help you, I will. We can mold your job together. But if it's time for you, as Zlatina found out with her job, to move on to another company, I will help them with that too. My LinkedIn contacts are theirs. So it's really that honesty and conversation with people. But there is a line, right? If something's not getting done and they're not doing it and they haven't expressed any desire to do their job, then they have to leave.
So if there is no more questions, I would like to kind of a little bit talk about collaboration and extended team, because I think as an IT managers, this is something which we can learn from. I mean, we're not very good at communicating, as Carol pointed out. I mean, come on. Introvert is not to go and chat with everybody. We all can spend. I've learned that, like at work, we can chat with hours. You go with your spouses, and we have nothing to say to each other. We feel so awkward. Have you been in this situation, any of you? Unless your spouse works at the same industry, I have a luck. My husband does. We feel very awkward in the situations when there is a mixed company. So there is some things which I think we can learn from each other about cross-functional teams, how to make things work. So, Carol, do you want to start?
Okay. So the thing I always tell our team is we are not developing a solution for ourselves. Rarely does IT sit down to develop an application that they're going to use every day. So we're developing something and handing it over. So the people who own the applications are the users of the application, which immediately necessitates cross-functional collaboration. So we do agile development, Scrum and sprints. We have a business owner and an IT owner, and when we collaborate with the senior management team because they're funding the project. We collaborate with at least a few representatives of the community who's going to touch the keyboard or the application or the solution, whatever it may be, every single day. And then the people who are the managers of those people. So once you get a whole group of people together, change starts happening and collaboration starts happening. Every time I've delivered an application previously in my career that was ordered from an executive with no collaboration from end users, they look at it and they're like, we don't want this, we don't need it, it was someone else's interpretation of our requirement. So we're in the business of solving problems for other people. We have to ask those other people what they need before we sit down and start coding. That's just a summary take on collaboration.
So you've probably heard the phrase or this kind of brought out before is, we're all headed south, right? You have your, for me, in my organization, we have the team that supports the client. We have which is our delivery services team, but we also have a professional services team. We have a sales team. We have the management team. We have the line managers. So we're all headed south, but what we find is I'm going to have some of the team end up in Florida. I'm going to have some of them end up in Texas, and some of them end up in, Baja, Mexico. And so it really, collaborating together will get you all at least in the same state going south. And what you find is if you don't collaborate, that's where you have so much upheaval, and you spend so many cycles, right? So it really is about pulling the teams together. I mean, we do a combined staff meeting, and it's not just the executives, right? It's the program managers, it's the line managers, and it's every level down, at least someone from those organizations. So you get that collaborative buy-in for the business. So we all know we're headed south, and we're not dictating to them. So they buy into the story. They're part of the story. They're part of that success, and they're not just being told. We do that with our kids, right? If we just tell them what to do, they're not going to do it. But if we help them be part of the decision-making and making them feel empowered, they'll usually follow along, usually.
So from my early years as a manager, the one thing other than I had to learn how to speak business talk. I mean, it's definitely not technical talk. You have to learn how to call the code something else, the release something else. But the one thing which kind of struck me more, maybe, is the fact that we as developers, we really fast go down into the nitty-gritty details. Nobody really cares. Especially when you're a manager, you may be lucky, and maybe your business people will care, and they may ask you about it. Let's be honest, most of the cases, it's your job. It's not their job. It's your job to figure out how to solve the details. What they want to hear from you is they want to hear the big picture. They want to see how you will solve the big problem. They don't care that you will write a class here or you will write an interceptor there. Why they would care, if you think about that? Because the most important part, which I learned in a cross-functional team, is if you don't speak their language and if you give them too much detail, they really fast turn into the mode of telling you how to solve your problem instead of you being empowered to solve your own problem. So the big difference for me was when we learn to speak about the big picture and we stay big, you can ask the questions like, hey, what's really the problem which you're trying to solve? Versus, how did we make this order button to be more visible on the screen? I mean, what problem are you trying to solve? Are you trying to solve the color of the button? Or you're really trying to solve the user experience of how to get the users to click this button faster? And maybe we have more than one solution to that, not just one. But that requires you not only to speak their language, it also requires you very well to kind of be able to ask the questions in the language which is common and they feel comfortable answering. And don't go to the details because you never know what they'll hear and what they will read into it. That's kind of my thing, because every time when I give them too much detail, it's turned out that our servers crashed. We never said that. But this is what they heard, because we had a code problem. Okay. But it's much harder to backtrack versus never getting there, just from my experience. Any questions on that? This is really moving. So
kind of getting to the point of what you just mentioned, where you have different audiences. You're speaking about managing down, but we all also have to manage up. And so here now we don't have the authority, we don't have the power, but we still have to get our jobs accomplished. What is different about managing up? Any advice or insights on managing up?
I think the advocacy part, like I have to speak for the developers in what's possible and what's not possible. As a manager, I have to be close enough to the user community of applications to know how to advocate up. And then we have to be an ear for them. So we have to be a voice and an ear. It really goes back to building that trust relationship with your community. I go out to the business units. I send my team out to the business units. They can't just sit at their desks. They have to go meet, sit in a business unit that they support so that they're there to hear what's going on. So really it's having every level of your organization entwined so that you're the ear and they know who you are. We have help desk people who are hardly ever at their desk. I don't know why we call them help desk, but they're out and they have to be in the community they're supporting most of the day. And so they hear, and then they advocate up. And I think it's really just having that communication channel open in the facility for people to openly and honestly be able to come talk to you. We don't yell at people if they come and say there's a problem. We're like, thank you. Thank you is the number one phrase that any IT team I work with has to use. They have to thank people, whether it's a positive comment or a negative comment. Thank you for commenting. So it's really to be the ear, and then my job is to be the voice and also to listen. But it's really the communication channels. Does that address what you were going for? Okay.
The only thing I would add to that is be innovative, right? Think outside the box. Just because communication has always been done one way, if that's not working, try something different. Go to the next management layer up and say, we don't feel like we're being heard. Could we invite you to our team, and can you come sit in a team meeting, or can you come sit with the coder, or whatever that looks like, so you can understand really, why we're pushing back or why we're having issues. But don't be afraid to try new things. I have seen some of the best solutions come out of the team. The feet on the street is what we call it, and they're smart people, right? People, and they, once again, 99% of people want to be successful. And so let's just help them be that way, right? Empower them with a voice. So just, be creative.
So my advice for managing up, know your customers, know what they care about, be transparent. Because when they know what they're doing, they're significantly more willing to listen. If they have no clue what you spent your months with, managing up it's hard because they're not connected. Be connected with them. Keep them updated, keep them transparent. I know that's actually, it's much harder for probably IT people, but I kind of go back to make sure you speak with their language. Don't speak with your language, because your language usually doesn't go very well up. People don't care about that. They just don't, and that's okay. That's not a bad thing. It's just part of life. So if you want to, as part of being a manager, you have to learn how to say things which people care about. That's in my mind. How many minutes we have? 10 more minutes. So the one thing which I wanted to talk, and we talked a little bit about that, is the one thing as a manager also which you have to learn, at least in my experience, is trust that people will make a mistake. And that's okay. People have to make mistakes. I have a joke with my team. If you haven't made a mistake in the last 6 months, what you have been doing? The reality is there is no way you have been working for 6 months and you didn't make a single mistake. It applies the same for me. I'll make the mistakes too. It's not just them. It's maybe different level of mistake, but I will make mistakes too. So one of the things which for me was hard is to figure out what to do with these mistakes, because we all know, you make the mistake, making it once is okay, making it twice, something needs to change. But what should change? I have some ideas. I know what we're trying to do, but I'm just curious what kind of how you handle the mistakes too on your side.
Well, first of all, we isolate the ability of people to make mistakes to a dev or test environment. So I'll just say that being IT. But it's how you react and how your team reacts. So if the expectation is that when someone makes a mistake, you then do a lessons learned and you don't berate that person, you just depersonalize it and say, hey, here's what we learned. We just at Nielsen Laboratories had a huge cut over to a new CRM functionality this weekend. We had 2 people in lead roles who had never implemented an ERP before. We had no one else to do it. So it's their job and they had to do it. We had some mistakes. every step of the way, we gave them feedback, positive feedback, directional feedback. Never once was anyone called on the carpet or the hardwood. And we communicated to the rest of the team mistakes. We didn't say this person forgot this and therefore we now have 3 more hours ahead of us to convert something. We just laid out what the problem was and what the solution is. And we did that in a transparent mode to everyone involved in the project and the CEO, because believe me, he was texting me all weekend long. How's it gone? What'd you find? What should I expect? So being transparent and taking a mistake as a learning opportunity, both for the individual and the whole team, because you may not know that other people needed to know what the lesson learned was, sharing it with the user community as well.
We have a saying that, and because we drive such a customer excellence, and customer support excellence in our business, and that's part of our core values. When something gets dropped or a client is unhappy, my team individually they feel like they've dropped the world, right? And the first thing that comes out of our mouth, as management, it's kind of a joke at this point, is no one died. So we're okay. No one died. And that they're not going to take a beating, right? That it's okay. And it is part of that learning. And then we do, like you say, the lessons learned. We go back and figure out, was a step missed in training? Is it something brand new that we've never had to deal with? If so, we need a process and a policy to support that. But once again, try, not to make it personal, because we all make them, right? We're human. That's what we do. But I mean, you're going to have those few exceptions where people just didn't care and they dropped the ball. And then that's a different conversation. And you have to be willing to have those hard conversations, which I'm going to push the Crucial Conversations book again. That's the best way to approach, something that has to be, a pretty solid, hard conversation. But, don't make it personal. You're there to support them and help them get over that mistake. And it's so fascinating to watch people, when they come to you, they're just devastated. Their shoulders are hunched over. But when you approach it that way and say, okay, I'm going to help you fix this mistake, and we're going to both learn from this, and just to watch their personal demeanor change, their shoulders, they sit up more, they have a smile, they feel like, that they're going to be okay, and to watch their confidence grow, that you just can't put a price tag on that, and then you'll see that rise within the business.
So the one thing which I would add, I completely echo what you said. It's very important to learn from the mistakes, but I learned that it has to be actionable, because at the beginning we were doing a lot of reflections and we all list the good, the bad, and walk away. And then the next week we have the same list of good and bad. It won't change. What will make a change? So the one thing which I had to learn, we have a joke, you break it, you fix it. But you have to tell somebody how you fix it and why. So you kind of go through the process of make sure that your learning is actionable in some way. There is some action out of it, so we don't repeat it. Yeah, there will be a mistake next month again, or 2 weeks from now, or somebody didn't execute some scenario in testing. I wish I can tell our testing is perfect, but we all make mistakes. So the reality is it has to be actionable. It has to have something which you change, because if you didn't change anything, you can learn from it, but it will still happen because you didn't make the change which is needed. Our current CEO has a very interesting kind of motto. He says, it's not the person's problem, it's the process problem. Something is wrong, it's not in the person. It's we allow him to make the mistake, or we didn't help him learn from the previous time. So that's kind of my point of view, but it's hard to live with mistakes, especially when you're a new manager. It's really hard because you take it like it's your fault, like you let the business down. You kind of did something wrong, and it's not. It's part of life. And that's the other hard thing, at least for me, when I was a brand new manager, is to figure out how to get disconnected so I can focus on the problem versus on why it's happened. Because in most cases, it's more important to fix the problem versus the whys at this moment. After that, you have time to think about that.
I'd like to offer just a bit of advice too. Something I did really early in my career, and it really changed it, was find a mentor. Find someone that you look up to who is in a role that is similar or something that you want to grow into, and ask them to mentor you. It really will change. They'll give you a perspective that you wouldn't have otherwise. You can learn so much quicker and probably avoid some of the mistakes being new in management. But find a mentor, and there's great people in this valley. This valley is so talented and so rich in talent. So I'm sure here in the room there's some really amazing people. So reach out, even outside of your own organization. You would be surprised the people who are so willing as well. So that was just a piece of advice that came to me very early on, and it really changed my role.
And I'd like to say be a mentor, because I will tell you, I have learned more from the people I have mentored than I've learned a lot from the people who have been my mentors, but I've learned more from the people I've mentored. And especially if you mentor someone in your organization who is either new or just coming up in a role, you get a perspective that no one else will share with you, right? So you build that mentor relationship, and you get the full, honest truth about how they're feeling, what they're experiencing. You get their user experience, basically. And that has helped me to correct course through companies at every level, just to mentor. And I don't mean like a lifelong pick this one person and have them as your source. It's not a crime scene investigation, but really just keep mentoring in your organization and outside of your organization, people at different levels. As you're learning from people above you, learn from the people who are coming up and working at different levels.
Well, that's where you get so much job satisfaction, is in that mentoring, standpoint too. It's we laugh about it. We call it the training wheels, to watch. For those of you who have kids and have got your kids off of training wheels, and to watch just that pure sheer excitement, like they've conquered it, is the same way when you watch and you have mentored someone and watch them come up through the business. It's the training wheel scenario. So, it really brings a great satisfaction to you as well.
Yes. Make sure you find the right mentors. I think that makes a huge difference. Any questions? Nope. Thank you.
Thank you very much.